Hola, ¿cómo están? So first things first here, please be aware that you're likely going to hear my dogs in the background because they both are here and they both want attention. So welcome to my land. If you hear like the big ooh, 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 that'll be him. The little guy's the little one you can hear jangling around now. Okay? So first thing you need to be aware of is we're going to be really just doing the first 2 pages, páginas 1 y 2 of this packet today to start getting you accustomed to the direct object pronouns. What they are in English, what they are in Spanish, and to give you a bit of information about how they're used. This is something we'll be spending some time on in class. It does take some practice, and it is okay if you get the notes and you start trying to apply them and you're confused and you really need some extra help trying to figure things out. So be aware of that. It's absolutely fine, okay? So what we're really looking at when we're looking at direct object pronouns, or the direct object of a sentence in general, is que o quién, who or what, receives our actions, recibe nuestras acciones. So that's where we're really headed here. So be aware, we do use direct object pronouns in English as well all the time. And so you'll notice that you have this chart here that corresponds to the top of página 1 of your notes packet that lists the direct object pronouns in English and in Español. So you'll notice that me is me, you informal is te, him, her, you, or it is lo or la, us is nos, you all in España is os, and them or you all is los and las. And so you'll notice that the direct object pronouns at the bottom, in the bottom 2 boxes for lo, la, los, and las, have both gender, masculine and feminine, and number, singular and plural. And to be perfectly honest, in a lot of cases when we're dealing with direct object pronouns, those are the 4 we're going to be dealing with the most often. Lo, la, los, and las. So keep that in mind. Now moving on, what you need to be aware of and keep remembering is that the direct object in a sentence in general is the person, animal, or thing that receives the action of the verb. And to find the direct object in a sentence, you need to ask yourself que, which means what, or quién, which means who, receives the action. And one of the most important things to keep in mind as we progress through this is that the direct object has nothing to do with the verb itself. It has nothing to do with who or what is doing the verb. It has to do with someone or something that is on the receiving end of a verb. And as we get more into this in class, we will continue to deal with that, okay? And continue to practice and make sure that we are able to distinguish between the two. So at the bottom of La Primera Página, we have a couple of examples in English and in Español. So I'm going to walk you through this a little bit, at least for the first few, but for these few examples here. So in English, we have the question, did you need an x-ray? Okay, because we most often honestly use these in conversation to avoid repeating ourselves. So your subject of the sentence, or the person who did the verb, is you. The verb itself is need. So we ask ourselves, okay, what did you need? Okay, you needed an x-ray. So an x-ray is the direct object of the sentence. We would answer that question replacing an x-ray with it, so that we avoid repeating ourselves over and over again. So we'd say, yes, I needed it. It being your direct object pronoun that replaces an x-ray. The corresponding sentence in Español is necesitaste, did you need, una radiografía, an x-ray. So it really works the same way in that we're taking una radiografía, an x-ray, and we are replacing it with a feminine singular direct object pronoun that means it. Si la necesité. Same idea for the next sentence. And by the way, the word did there is not something you need to translate. It is implied just by the fact that it is a question, okay? In Spanish, you don't have to translate the word did as you're writing questions for the most part. So we have, did you buy the Band-Aids? So you being the subject, doing the verb, buy being the verb, and what did you buy? The Band-Aids. So the Band-Aids is the direct object. It's plural, so in English at least we would replace it with a word that means them, because we're talking about the Band-Aids. In the answer, I saying, yes, I bought them, them being the direct object pronoun that replaces the Band-Aids. In Español, we have compraste las curitas. Did you buy the Band-Aids? So once again, compraste, the did you buy. And las curitas, the Band-Aids. What did you buy? Las curitas. So just like we replaced the Band-Aids in English with them in our answer, we're replacing las curitas with las in our answer in Spanish, si las compré, because it is a feminine singular way of saying them. For a final example here, did you meet the new doctor? You meet is your subject, you, and your verb meet. Who did you meet? The new doctor. So that is your direct object, and it's going to be replaced with the appropriate direct object pronoun, depending on the gender of the doctor of whom you are speaking. And we have I met him or her, more very generically here, yesterday. So him or her being the direct object pronoun that you're using to replace the new doctor. Same idea in Spanish. Conociste, did you meet? Al médico nuevo or a la médica nueva, both mean the new doctor, okay? And that's going to be your direct object in your question. And to replace it in an answer with a word that means him or her, you're going to say lo for masculine or la for feminine. Conocí ayer, I met him or her yesterday. Once again, it does take a bit to put this into practice, but since we typically use these in the context of a conversation, sorry, my little dog there is just completely like annihilating a dog toy and they're stuffing all over the floor now. Like dog toy stuffing, that is. So sorry for the distraction, see? It does take practice, but you will get it, okay? Now, for the last bit of information that you're going to need here, on Página 2, remember, you are not doing the rest of the notes today, but I do want to make sure you have most of the information you're going to need to work with the object pronouns in one place, hence this is together, okay? These are typically used in the context of a conversation. And the way you're going to work with these is find the direct object of a question and replace that direct object with the appropriate direct object pronoun in an answer. Because the reason why we really use pronouns in general is to avoid repetition. Now, in terms of where we put them in a sentence, your safest bet, and the one I advise you to stick with for the time being until or unless you feel really comfortable with these very quickly, is before a conjugated verb in a sentence that only has one verb. That's almost always going to be an appropriate and safe bet. Attached to the end of an infinitive or a present participle. Okay, so attach to the end of a verb that ends with AR, ER, or IR, or one that ends with ando or iendo. If you're working with commands, they must be attached to the end of an affirmative command, just like the reflexive pronouns. And once again, just like the reflexive pronouns, they need to be between the word no and the command form of the verb if you're working with a negative command. So keep that in mind moving forward. We will be getting plenty of practice in class with these over the next few days, so keep that in mind before, as we move on. Okay, gracias.